I'm going to leave the marina, head out into Hervey Bay, and once I get out, we'll work out what the wind's doing. Probably got a bit of a reach if I want to go straight across to Frazer, and I might do that, head across there, do some whales, and then work my way down the inside of Frazer down into Hervey Bay. So we'll see what it's like when we get out there, but first thing to do is get the boat organised to leave. We're in Platypus Bay. I'm just heading down to Watumba, or Lagoon Inlet they sometimes call it. I've had the boat in there a couple of times. I'm not going to take it in today. You've got to work the tides to get in and out, but I might take the dinghy in and have a look around. We were visited by whales this morning. I think I got some good drone footage. Really hard being on board by myself when you got whales around, because I'm trying to fly the drone and use the other camera. If you want to see whales, Platypus Bay at this time of the year is fantastic. I've just anchored in pretty shallow water off the mouth of Watumba. We're going to try and find our way in. It's low tide at the moment, so probably going to be a bit shoaly, but we'll just see if we can sneak in and have a look in there. water's the colour of tea with the outgoing tide, but at high tide it's crystal clear in here. Just all the tannin being brought down from on the island discolours the water. Pretty breezy out here, up over 20 I reckon. Not really as forecast, they're talking 10 to 15, but it's gusting 20-25. So we've got the sail furled up a fair bit, and it's still giving us a bit of drive, so we're getting along about 6 knots. I think I'm going to use the tide. The tide's just turning now, so we're just at the bottom of it. I think I'm going to use this tide to run up through the Sandy Strait. That should put us at Elbow Point later this afternoon, early tonight. And then I'm just going to cool my heels for a couple of days and wait for the weather to be right to run across the Wide Bay Bar and down to Mooloolaba. But I might as well use this bit of wind and bit of tide while it's favourable and get a bit further south. We're going to slip down inside Little Woody Island. A little bit ordinary here, wind against the tide, so it's standing up a bit, but it won't last long. Once we get to Kingfisher, we'll have a very pleasant trip from there down through the Sandy Strait. Looks like a bit of weather coming in. The boat's going to get a wash, I think. Very pleasant night here last night. I think the rain may have gone. We're just going to up anchor in a minute and head down to Sheridan Flat, get through the shoaly bit in the Sandy Strait. I might even skip us across some banks up through Yankee Jack Creek to get over there, I think. Pretty high tide today, so it should be okay. Anyhow, we'll get the anchor up and get a move on. Well, it was pretty shallow coming that way. We got down to about 1.2, I think, but it wasn't a really high tide either. It's something you can do if you've got a bit of water under you and not too much draft. Well, once again through the Sandy Strait. I've done this trip a few times. It is a great way to go. It's a long way if you want to go up the outside of Frazer Island, and if your destination's Bundaberg, then you've got to come straight across Hervey Bay to Bundy. So it puts you a bit closer to Bundy if you're heading that way. But it's a bit of a no-brainer because you don't have to worry about the wind in here. It doesn't matter what it's doing, it's pretty sheltered. So it's a good trip. As long as you don't draw too much and you work the tides, you should get through. So we just skipped across a few banks this morning coming out of South White Cliffs, but I've done that at high tide and got across okay. But if you stay to the channel markers, you should make it through all right. So it's an interesting trip too, and a few places to stop on the way. we're going to push down to Pelican Bay today, and I think tomorrow maybe we'll head down to Mooloolaba, but we'll just keep an eye on that weather. Looks like it's a bit better day anyway at the moment. Just taking a little detour through Gary's Anchorage. We'll have a look and see who's in here. I'm not going to stop. Well, I wasn't going to stop here, but it looks pretty nice and it's out of the wind, so why not? It's been a beautiful day here. Changed the plan again. I'm going to leave tonight about 9 o'clock and get the outgoing tide down to Pelican Bay. I'll probably get there 11 or 12. Then I'll have a bit of a sleep and I'll be ready to do the bar then. If I leave it till tomorrow morning, I've got to push the tide all the way down to the bar, so I'd have to leave pretty early anyway. So I'll get the tide with me and get down to Pelican Bay, and then the bar's pretty right for about probably 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So a little bit of night nav again. Won't be too hard though, it's all pretty well lit, this sandy strait, so it should be good.
What is your destination, please? Over.
Well, it hasn't been a bad trip, but it hasn't been a great one either. The wind's been a little bit fine. We've got some sail out. It's only light, but a little bit hard on the nose, so not really giving us that much of an assistance. I should get into Mooloolaba at about 4:30 tonight, maybe 5 o'clock. So it'll be a bit of a late entrance there, but we'll get in there all right, and then I'm going to wait for it to go around the north for sure before I go down to Moreton Bay. Just put the kettle on for a cup of coffee, and it's not too bad out here really. Mooloolaba's inside now, so we'll get in there in another around about an hour. I've organised a berth in the marina. It's all good, so we'll live it up for a few days. Example of a high intensity directional light. Flashing red when you're off to port. White when you're on the leads. And then flashing green when you're off to starboard. It was a good little trip down from Double Island Point yesterday. Good to be in the marina last night. Always sleep a bit better when I'm in the marina, not on the pick. And good opportunity to do a bit of washing and get some more supplies. Great marina here at Mooloolaba. The best part about it is it's just a 50-metre walk across the road and you're on this fantastic surf beach. There's not too many marinas around that give you that option. Bearings gone in that water pump, have to be replaced. Bugger. I was going to leave tomorrow, the wind's going around and would be a good day for heading further down the coast. I just went down and did my engine room checks and discovered that the water pump on one of the motors has run a bearing. So I couldn't take it to sea like that, it'd probably overheat and let me down. I'd have to shut that motor down. So I've ordered the parts, I'm just going to have to wait till they get here and I'll change that pump before I head south. A bit disappointing because I did replace those water pumps, just part of a bit of maintenance. I replaced the water pumps about probably 12 months ago, 18 months ago, but I didn't buy genuine parts. I bought aftermarket parts and the bearing's gone, so I'm going to put a genuine part in this time. Well, it's good to have mates. Had a mate down in Brisbane, he's picked the parts up for me and brought them up to Mooloolaba. I just bought him lunch. Thanks very much Ron and Lynn for bringing these up, that's great. So now I can get back down the engine room and put it back together. So here's the new part. A bit better production than the other one I had, and it's a genuine part, so we'll bolt that on, get this engine going, and then of course I'm going to have to do it on the other side when I get a bit further down the track, but hopefully these last a bit longer. Okay, we've got to replace this faulty water pump. First thing I've got to do is drain all of the fluid out of the motor. Best way to get the fluid out, I'm just going to take the bottom radiator hose off the engine. And put a bucket underneath it, of course. You can see that the bearings absolutely had it, so that should be nice and tight. It's just flopping around everywhere. So the lesson is, don't buy aftermarket pumps. Buy the original Kubota stuff. The pump that was on this motor when I bought it did 18 years. This has done 2. So I don't know if it's even worth rebuilding it. I think I'm just going to throw it out and I'll have to replace the pump on the other side as well. Don't buy the aftermarket ones, buy the good Kubota stuff. pump's back on. All I've got to do is do all the bolts up. Do them all up pretty evenly. Okay, so that's the pump back on. Not a big job. That's all back on. Fan belt's back on, everything's back together. All we need to do now is put water in the cooling system and we can give it a test. Sun comes up, we just popped out across the bar at Malula Bar, and I'm just going to head down to the bottom of Bribey Island, probably about a 4-hour trip, and we'll stay there the night and then maybe head across the field tomorrow. It's blowing probably around about 15 to 20 out here, but from behind it's quite pleasant, so got a bit of sail out, we've lifted our speed and we'll have a good trip down to Bundaberg. Just keeping an eye on that engine that I repaired yesterday, and all looks to be going well, so we'll keep an eye on that, just this first trip with it. Yeah, I guess the other one is going to need doing in a minute as well. I don't trust that now, so that'll be the next chore. Well, the wind's just got really light, and I've had to furl the sail up. We're still doing 5.5, 6 knots, but not quite as good as with the sail up. Anyway, we've got another hour, 2 hours, and we'll be down to Bundaberg and get anchored up. We're just going to head up behind Bribey Island and anchor, and that'll get us out of this wind, which is supposed to get up this afternoon, so we'll hide out of that while it's blowing a bit and get going tomorrow morning. I'm anchored behind Bribey Island. I'm back in Moreton Bay now. I've been away for 4 months, believe it or not. It's been a good cruise this year, but not as good as it could have been because Wombi got locked up down in New South Wales with the border closure. So she got up to GKI, but that was about it. So I've been on my own for most of the trip. But anyway, in a week, I'll be back down with Wombi, which will be great. And the good news is they're opening the borders into Queensland, I think on the 1st of October. So that'll make it a bit easier for me to get down and see her and for her to come up and see me.